What's happening, guys? You're here with the Wednesday Night Delight. That is Lowdown. We are the Levels of Wrestling. Tonight, we are joined by Costume from the Mind of Carnage. We're joined by the ever-lovely Krista. And, of course, joining us tonight is our very special guest. We've got Sam Shaw from TNA. How are you doing, man?
Doing well, guys. How are you?
Oh, really good. Really excited to have you on the show as well.
Excellent.
I've been saying for quite a long time, definitely one of my favorite character personas on Impact Wrestling. It's such a nice change to see someone do something quite so out there as well.
Thank you. It's nice to be acknowledged in that kind light like that. I get so much Twitter hate for not being able to wrestle. You know what I mean?
No, man, it's not always about wrestling. It's about character.
By the folks that sit in their armchairs and say, "Hey,
Yes.
I could do that," but they really couldn't.
Yeah, man, it's about building the character. It's about making us getting behind that character, and you did a good job.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm not going to say I believed you were creepy, but you play creepy well.
Yeah, yeah.
That was the goal, man.
Continue to go by creep anyways.
Yeah. I still feel like there's lots that I can do with that character, so, you know, in some respects, I just want to see if I can play around with it, make it a little bit more user-friendly, you know, just do some of those elements out on the independent scene for a little while. So we'll see how it goes.
So let's get into it. I mean, obviously you were one of TNA's Gut Check winners, but you did like quite a fair bit of time in like OVW and things like that. What was the highlight of that for you?
The highlight of OVW?
Yeah.
I think just working like constantly, because OVW sort of affords you that luxury. They run shows like 4 or 5 times a week at least. You know, sometimes 6 days a week, and just getting into that rhythm, you know, just knowing like, okay, I have a show tonight, I have a show tomorrow, I have a show, you know, 3-4 days from now, and just getting into that rhythm of just, because when you get up to TNA at the time, you know, they were running TVs and then, you know, 3 house shows every weekend, so it's like, you know, you're doing like 5-6 shows in a row. Yeah. And just being at OVW under, you know, like training with Rip Rogers for a little while, and being under Al Snow's watchful eye, and just yeah, and he really helped me, just like, because I had to like really step back quite a bit and you know, come down off that, like, I need to like wrestle and do all these high flying kind of things to get over, you know, and he's just like, here, do this, like, do more character stuff, because that's how the crowd's gonna really like gravitate towards you. And yeah, he was right.
When you came in to TNA and things, you had like the board shorts and things, weren't you? It was like the board shorts kind of skate shoe type thing.
Yeah, and it was just something like, I just felt like, you know, the X Games is sort of really popular, and skateboarding is like a huge thing now, and those are all things that like I grew up watching and doing a lot of that stuff, like extreme sports and, you know, skateboarding, rollerblading, and surfing and things like that were things that in my neck of the woods in Jacksonville Beach, Florida, that's what we all grew up doing. So I just happened to be that weirdo that said, hey, I want to be a wrestler, you know. So
you're the odd one out.
Not saying that's a bad thing, you know, because I love what I do.
I mean, obviously you did time with OVW and you did time with TNA, but I don't know like how many people know you actually did a little bit of time in Ring of Honor as well. You worked with like the Briscoes and things like that. How was that for you, working with them, like doing tag work as well?
Yeah, somebody asked me this in another interview, and I always like to stress the fact that, you know, just trying to catch a break for so many years, like I was just having tryouts with everybody, and whenever I saw little opportunities come up, like I would go to a lot of the camps. Like I went to Harley Race Camp up in Missouri. I went to, you know, an OVW camp where John Laurinaitis was there, and, you know, scouts from WWE. And out of all the camps that I went to, Ring of Honor, I went to 2 of them, and it was at their Ring of Honor school, and it was the absolute best 2-day camp I've ever been to. And just, sort of getting noticed there afforded me, hey, can you come up to Baltimore and have a match? We want to take a look at you against the Briscoes. And that's just something I like to stress. Like, Ring of Honor really has one of the best like tryout camps where you can get noticed. And I highly recommend it to anybody that's like trying to like, get seen, because they really take the time. Like, even if they say it's going to be like like an 8-hour day, it turns into like a 15-hour day. You show up early and you're there till late at night because they want everybody to get what they paid for.
It's worth it too. You get the spotlight.
Absolutely.
Spotlight. Yep.
And I mean, you have they bring in all like the top guys from Ring of Honor, like prospective guys that you're probably going to work with these guys if you get into Ring of Honor, So they're checking out the talent there, and the execs like Kevin Kelly, and I think Jim Cornette was there one year I went, and you're getting evaluated hardcore there. So
I mean, it's one of those things as well. I was literally just about to ask you, like, would you ever work with Ring of Honor again? But from what you're saying about the camps and things, it sounds like you would definitely go back.
I love what Ring of Honor is doing. It's always a place that I, could see myself thriving in. It's just a matter of them giving me that opportunity, because, I'm not sitting here saying I'm like banging on the door like, hey, let me in Ring of Honor, but, if they called me tomorrow and said, hey, come up here and do this, do that, like, I'd definitely be open to it,
I mean, sorry, on you go.
I'm sorry. So it's primarily when it comes to promotions like that, they'll have to reach out to you. It's not something that you go to them at all, or as somebody who doesn't know how that works sometimes.
Well, it's funny. It's like the wrestling world is sort of like, I'm coming up on my 10th year, at least 10 years since I started training and whatnot and doing independence and things like that. And in that time, you just sort of realize like how small of a world and a community it really is. So over the years, you just make these connections. No matter where you're at, like, you're going to run into one of these guys here or there, and you make, you get their phone number, you text with these people. And when I was on the outs with TNA, it was sort of like, I want to start talking to people in Ring of Honor. I want to start talking to people in other promotions just to see if there's any interest in possibly doing something, after what I did in TNA,
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
it keeps the doors open too.
Absolutely.
I mean, as well, I'll talk about like Ring of Honor and things. I think the creepy bastard gimmick would work perfectly over there just now. They haven't really kind of got anything like that going on, but there seems to be a lot of talents that you could work with that kind of edge.
No, I totally agree. And watching their program lately, it seems like they are going a lot more in that character driven that path. You know what I mean? It is very heavy wrestling based, but I think one of the things that stuck out to me was like a Dalton Castle, like that guy that he comes out with his boys or whatever, and he has a very elaborate entrance, and that's very, very character driven, and the crowd responds to it. That's why they keep putting him in the position he's in, because it's garnering a response.
Cade, I believe you had a question as well.
I did have a question. When it comes to, obviously, you're running TNA, there was also the run of Aces and Eights. Now, there was some word going around a lot of times where that Aces and Eights was kind of like the NWO version from WCW, but in TNA. Did you guys have, like, was there any type of, like, weird feelings in the backstage area that they were being favored or stuff like that, like, specifically from, like, somebody that wasn't in the Aces and Eights? I know you had your problems with them, but...
The Aces and Eights angle itself, I mean, definitely took precedent over anything else going on at the time. I mean, even like the heavyweight title picture was always sort of, there was always something with Aces and Eights involved in that, and
that's why the whole NWO thing was so similar, because at the time you kind of had that fear like, is this going to go down a wrong path? Is the whole locker room going to be Aces and Eights all of a sudden?
Sure, and I think the fans, like, at first it was such a mysterious sort of thing, and it was like, you know, these guys just showing up in masks, and then that gets wrestling fans talking, you know, like, who is this, who is that, and you have all the guessing game going on, and I mean, it was an interesting time because it was the time, you know, when they had the gut check thing running hot, and I got in right around that time, and you know, I'd been there since 2008 doing tryouts and things like that because I went to Team 3D Academy, which is in their backyard at the Impact Zone in Orlando. So I was up there seeing the change of the guard for years, and finally the gut check opportunity came about, and I'm sitting there seeing the whole Aces and Eights thing happen in front of me, and little known fact, like, before I reported to OVW after I got signed from gut check, like for 6 to 7 weeks I was under a mask. I was an Aces and Eights member.
Oh, really?
No one really ever knew that, and like they actually had like I guess you could say it was an A and a B crew that, you know, they go do TVs, the A group, and then the B group would go do house shows.
Yeah.
So we did a loop up in like Michigan and then Canada, and it was me and Mike Knox as Aces and Eights, and we wrestled Ken Anderson and Gunner. So that was like my first TNA house show I ever did, and it was like,
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And you did it under the mask. Wow.
fans were yelling at me like, Garrett Bischoff, blah blah blah, you suck. You know, it was really funny.
You said that was like your first house show. Am I right in saying like your first TNA appearance was like 2010, where you attacked Tommy Dreamer?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I don't remember. Well, was that before or after?
Like that was.
I did some
Hardcore Justice.
Do you remember when Team Jarrett, when he was doing the MMA thing?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes.
You accompanied him to the ring. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like his lead guy. You know, he had his hands on my shoulders, and I had his towels, you know, and water bottles, and we'd always just interfere in the match and get our ass kicked. So, but I think that was after the Hardcore Justice. But yeah, I think Hardcore Justice was the first one, and that was a special night for me.
I mean, that was, you attacked Tommy Dreamer in a match with Raven, I think.
Yes.
I mean, to me, like, Raven's one of those guys I always used to watch. I don't know, like, what your opinion is. He's just one of those captivating guys, and I can't help but look at that and think, you know, if I was in your shoes, I'd be completely starstruck the whole time.
It was an amazing day. It was like, it was a few weeks before that I had worked an independent show and I wrestled Tommy Dreamer, and I really just sort of like marked out. I was just like, hey, you know, this is why I started wrestling, because in Jacksonville I went to a ECW show, and you know, you and this is me talking to Tommy Dreamer. I say, you know, you and Dusty Rhodes versus Steve Carino and Jack Victory, and Sandman and Rhino came out, and you guys brawled right next to me, and a trash can almost hit me in the head. And you know, I always say that's why that was like the most special moment, where I just said, like, I think I was 15 or 16 years old, and I said, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. And I told Tommy Dreamer that, and he's like, I'm sorry.
Wow.
But you know, I think, you know, he's so sarcastic and sort of that dry humor, and right then and there, like, I feel like, you know, I found someone in the business that sort of got me and just said, I think this guy's really talented, and I think he needs an opportunity somewhere. So I think he talked to Bubba Ray, and Bubba Ray pulled me in the office one day at the school, and he just said, you're going to be on our Hardcore Justice pay-per-view. And I was just like, fuck, yes. You know, you're just a young guy looking for a break any way you can get in the door, you know. Yeah. So, and then he told me I was going to be Lupus. Do you think you can find an outfit that looks kind of like what Lupus wore? And I don't really remember Lupus very well, but of course I went back and like did my homework and found a, you know, a leather jacket to wrap around my waist, and no, I had the leather jacket on and then the flannel around my waist. That's right. Mm-hmm. Really like early 90s, like Seattle grunge style. You know,
you're kind of looking like the guy from the Breakfast Club.
Right.
John Bender.
Yeah.
That was the character's name, John Bender.
Was it?
Absolutely.
Krista, you had a couple questions as well. Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah. You had mentioned that you said you were 16, 17, and you saw like Dusty Rhodes and all those guys. Who were your main influences when you decided, just, hey, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life?
I think, obviously, like, I'll say the cliche, you know, when I was very young, it was like I was drawn to the character aspect of wrestling. The Hulk Hogan's, the super muscular, colorful characters. Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior. I loved Rick Rude. Everybody else like hated him, but I'd have a blast just watching him. You know.
I agree with you. I love Rick Rude.
Absolutely, he's something else. It was just so much fun to watch. And as I got older, it was like I started respecting the wrestling element a little more. So it was like the Bret Harts and the Shawn Michaels, the Ric Flairs, and all that. Ric Flair had some of the best promos ever. It just got me fired up, like at a young age. And
yeah, absolutely.
I guess as I got older, it was like, okay, I started looking at ECW. I started looking at Rob Van Dam, like just at how athletic he was, and he was just doing something totally like unorthodox, you know, and all these high-flying things for a bigger guy, you know. He's like 245 pounds, but he can do a split-legged moonsault, and he can do you know, he's super athletic, like a cruiserweight.
Yeah, in his heyday, the guy was bigger, but he was able to move like amazingly.
It was amazing to me, just as a young fan, just seeing the things he was doing, and it sort of inspired me because I feel like I've always been a very athletic specimen myself. So I was sort of like, I always felt like I want to have a match with Rob Van Dam, or I want to like sort of be like Rob Van Dam in a sense, you know?
Yeah, just kind of showing the athletic side while still being kind of big.
Right, but then I'm the creepy bastard.
Hey, man, you can still show speed and agility, though.
Yeah.
You said about the creepy bastard. Where did the influence come from that? A couple of us kind of spoke about this today. We've got like a private chat, and we're saying, was it like the Patrick Bateman, or was it a lot aimed towards Dexter? Like, there's a lot of influence there. So what kind of brought that on?
I'll tell you the three main influences, and you hit two of them. Patrick Bateman, the Dexter character, and Adam West from the 1960s Batman.
Wow. Really?
Oh, man.
There's something about him that I felt like you can sort of intersplice into the character, like some of the ridiculous things that I would say. Like, I'd always run it by Al Snow, and he was a big fan of Batman too, so he would always be like, yeah, you got to say that, you know?
Well,
like,
you got to remember too, the Batman back then was a true character, and that's exactly what you're trying to sell. He's trying to sell character.
Absolutely, and he played that like very suave, you know, like I'm Mr. Know-It-All, like I've done everything kind of thing, and I feel like there was some of that in the Samuel Shaw creepy bastard character, you know, like especially when he was with Brittany, you know, like I can use those words like, you know, my vivacious vixen, you know, things like that, and Adam West would say things like that to Catwoman all the time. You know,
well, all you need now is just a bat shark repellent spray, and you're good to go.
Actually, I'd have to say that the Adam West thing is probably my new favorite thing about you.
Wow, you know, I never even would have considered that. I'm like, I'm a huge Batman fan, or I like to think I am. I would have never ever considered the Adam West Batman as being part of that.
Well, if I can add to that, like when it started, it was full on like, let's make this character very dark and creepy and like weird and just make people feel uncomfortable, you know? But like I feel like I had to adapt later on with the character because I feel like the direction just wasn't as solid as it was from the beginning. So it almost seemed like, okay, they're handing me a script and this just looks like comedy to me. You know? Yeah. So like if that's sort of the direction they're going to go, like I'm going to have fun with it, and I'm not just going to, you know, I'm going to adapt. I'm going to look at some of the things Adam West did because this script just looks like something Adam West would look at and say, "Hey, Burt Ward, like watch this. I'm going to tweak this a little bit, and you know, I'll do it in a way that like the editors can't edit it out." You know what I mean? And that stuff went on back in the day, so.
Now, with TNA, did you guys get a lot of creative freedom that way? You know, some promotions are like, this is your script, you go with this. But with TNA, did you have a lot of creativity when it came to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I keep bringing up Al Snow, but he would always tell me that it's this is your character, and you feel it. You should be able to dictate his emotions. You should be able to his mannerisms, everything. Like, if you feel like you have a grasp on this, like, go with how you feel. And TNA sort of allowed that. I never once gotten in trouble or yelled at for anything. Like, I don't know if that's like.
Well, why would you? It's sold.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But okay. Yeah, because I've always wondered that, because you always have like these people, either they're very uncomfortable with what they come out with or the character they portray, where you felt very comfortable. So that's why I was kind of curious if you got that freedom or no.
Yeah, and I think the more backstage stuff I did, like, the more confident I got with it. At the beginning, like, I remember specifically, like, London, England, on my first UK tour, when the whole creepy bastard thing started, because the London crowd started chanting it after Ken Anderson called me a creepy bastard. Like, that was like.
Sorry about that.
When I walked out
Blame him.
to the ring, like, I was like, holy shit, this is it right here. Like, make or break this character. So, but then when Ken came out and we had that mingling with him and Christy, it just, something went off in my head, like, this is working. You know what I mean? And, like, the crowd was digging it, and me and Ken and Christy were bouncing off each other, like, really easily. And then from then on, it was just like, all right, I can relax because I feel like I have this,
Yeah. I mean, it was smooth as hell. I loved the one scene that always sticks with me is, I think it was the interview. It was set in your house, and Christy had ended up finding a room full of pictures and dolls and things like that. I always thought that was such an interesting angle to go with. Like, people were kind of like, okay, this is really weird now. Where are we going with this? And then it kind of went off from there, and then it handed with you in the straitjacket, ending up in the asylum and things like that. And that kind of led to, like, Gunner siding with you, helping you out. What was the payoff to that? Because, I mean, obviously we saw things with Brittany ending up, kind of short. What was the eventual payoff to that angle? Because that was always something that really intrigued me.
It was a great start. I will say that.
Yeah, and that's something that Gunnar and I always talk about. We feel like we got a really solid start, and then it was like,
it was such
I don't know.
ending.
I don't know if Gunnar, like, did you guys ask Gunnar that question?
Yeah, we asked a little bit. I mean, Gunnar was pretty much stumped, as you would think. But
Yeah, like, we talk about it a lot, man, because we're like, honestly, we would look for answers and we wouldn't get them. It's almost like it was like, and this is just my opinion, obviously, and I'm not trying to, like, bury anyone or say that it's anybody's fault, but I feel like the goal was not to get Gunnar and I over. To not sort of be in, sort of the number one spotlight per se. I think we had that match in Bethlehem, PA, where we destroyed each other, and we wanted to do more. Like, we were asking the writers, like, every day, like, hey, can we bring this to the UK? Because we want to do crazier stuff in the UK, like, because we know the fans will respond crazy over there for the stuff we had envisioned for we thought we were going to have 2 or 3 matches at least, and then we just had one match, and then Brittany left because of contractual issues and whatnot, and then it just sort of like, okay, well, we don't have anything going on for these guys anymore, so
I always imagine it's such a sticky situation to be in. I mean, especially when it comes down to, like, a third person's kind of contractual agreements coming down to it. I mean, obviously, if there had been a better opportunity, then I personally would have loved to have seen that feud go on. I remember saying to Gunnar, like, that match between the two of you, with it being so hardcore, was really impressive to see on TV at the time. Things had kind of lulled a little bit, and then seeing two guys just go straight at it and kind of knock hell out of each other was just cool as shit to watch.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that, and we put a lot of, like, heart and soul into, really trying to make that special. And like I said, I wish we could have done more, man. And it's a shame because and me and Magnus always talk about this, but this business doesn't really owe us anything, and we've always sort of had that mindset, but like it is a little frustrating when you feel like you've really put in the time, you've busted your ass, and you got this character over, and Gunnar, he's like, the crowd loves him. Like, he's got the look, he's got everything that, you know, a wrestler needs to succeed. And you got two of the hardest working guys in your company, two of the hardest working young guys that are just ready for a higher position in this company, and always supporting TNA and just putting it over every interview we do, everywhere we go. Like, we work for TNA. It's the best wrestling company out there, and you know, we have the best talent, the best roster on the planet, and this and that. And like, we're busting our ass in the gym, we're studying tape, we're like, I'm doing research on characters to make the creepy bastard better all the time, and Gunnar's doing his homework, and we're always bouncing ideas off each other, asking the veterans, riding with the veterans. Like, you know, what gives? You know what I mean?
Yeah, just kind of absorbing everything like a sponge and then having nowhere to put it.
Yeah, and then you see other guys come in, and it's like, I'm never jealous of somebody taking my spot or something like that, because it is what it is. We're gears in this big engine, you know? So, but the thing is, it's like, did we do something wrong? And we'd always ask that, and it's like, no, you didn't do anything wrong. It's just...
Did you have suspicions of what may be happening? Like, if somebody was just against you, or just in general just didn't like you?
I don't think it was that, and if it was the case, I wish somebody would just tell me to my freaking face. You know what I mean?
Balls and come out and
what's the
tell
problem
you.
with that? And you know, that's just sort of how any, like, the entertainment business in general. You know, there's going to be people, and you know, who knows what they said in the creative meetings. You know, like, hey, do we have anything for Samuel Shaw? No. Who knows?
We'll come back next week.
Yeah.
Right. Let's get through these next TV tapings, and then we'll figure something out. And that's sort of how it went for months and months and months, and then finally, hey, I gotta let you go.
Yeah.
Saying that, you know, knowing what you know now about the business, if you could write a letter of advice to your younger self, what would you say?
I would just say, just enjoy every single moment, like, and don't put so much pressure and stress on yourself, because that's the thing. This is like the one thing I've wanted to do ever since I was a young kid, and when it's that serious to me, like, I put my heart and soul into it, you know, and I just feel like, okay, well, this is something I love to do. I should enjoy this. I should enjoy this and not be so, like, caught up in just being stressed out over it. You know what I mean? I guess that's what I would write to myself.
That's cool. I think that's, you know, it's obviously a very good way of looking at it as well. I mean, if it's not fun, why do it?
Exactly.
You mentioned that obviously you've been wrestling roughly now for about 10 years. This is coming up. That you've been training for 10 years anyway. You worked with the company, I think it was Vintage, back in 2009. Are you back there currently doing things with them as well?
You know, I did some stuff with them a couple months ago when I was still with TNA, because I needed to get some independence and just work, you know, because TNA wasn't really doing anything with me. But yeah, a couple months ago I did some stuff with Vintage, and I don't think they're running anything right now. They're on a bit of a hiatus, I guess you could say. It's sort of like they're running in Orlando, so it's like it's so oversaturated there. I mean, TNA and NXT, and there's other indies there too, so it's just like...
Isn't Evolve down there or something like that? Dragons?
Yeah. They do some shows downtown Orlando, and I guess they're in conjunction with FIP, and they do some stuff in Tampa. So it's just lots of stuff going on in Florida. I think it's like the wrestling hub, you know?
Yeah, definitely going to have to head over that way when I come over. One of our Twitter followers, Craig, has asked, why was the theme song that you used called Dead Flowers during the creep angle? It was creepy as shit, but I never understood the title of it. I mean, was there a reason behind that?
Beats the shit out of me. I have no idea why it was called Dead Flowers.
That's the way to ask.
But I will say this, like, it is like they had some other music for me, and I didn't think it worked, and they tried it out for me, and then they realized it didn't work. And they actually took my suggestion, and they used a song that I sort of like picked out, and it was from a movie called Drive with Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man, I'm really having a block in my head what the song was called, but it just struck me as like such a creepy song, and I went to the music guys at TNA, specifically a young man named Dale, and I asked him, hey, could you do something similar to that? And lo and behold, like, I think it was after I choked out Ken Anderson in London, England that night I was speaking of earlier, all of a sudden this music came on, and I was like, they used it.
Oh, they wouldn't even tell you.
Wow.
Came like a surprise.
Awesome.
I mean, that's got to be really special as well. I mean, you managed to get a win in a big town, people chanting your name when you already said you felt you made it, and then this music that you've handpicked comes on. That's got to be pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, and that goes without saying, like, I owe so much to Ken Anderson for just being able to go out there and just, I mean, he just made me feel so comfortable, you know, because he's so damn good. I don't know if he gets enough respect. Like, I feel like he's like a veteran that more guys just.
Mm-hmm. He seems like one of those guys that knows that you have to focus on the younger talents to have a business. Like, he wants to respect the business. He just doesn't want to focus on himself. And that's something I kind of always liked about him. Like, the guy was entertaining as a character, entertaining in the ring, and you can just tell that he likes the idea of helping others. So, yeah, I could see the kind of natural. I don't know how to put it. He's just a natural guy.
Oh, yeah, he's just got a natural charisma about him. Like, even when he's not, you know, being crazy on the microphone, like, just backstage, he's just like he's a big kid, man. Sometimes I like forget that he's like a little bit older than me, you know.
That's it, man. It's just a number, so.
Exactly, and I mean he performs better than a lot of the young guys, so you know, I consider him a young guy.
I mean, if using that number, someone needs to tell Flair quick, because that guy's still partying hard.
He won't.
But that's Ric
stop.
Flair. The man will be in a retirement home, and he'll still have like women on his arms and going. Ooh.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
I'd be really disappointed if he doesn't now. So you know, it's Ric Flair. If you could work with anyone that was left on the TNA roster when you were there, who would you have picked to work with and why?
I've said this I've said this since I was signed there. Like, one of the main reasons I wanted to get signed with TNA was to work with guys like Bobby Roode. You know, I just think that he's like the cornerstone of that company, and he's just so smooth with everything he does. He's just like, he's got this aura about him. Like, he's just so cool, you know. And everybody respects him. He's a very, you know, he's a quiet guy. I feel like I feel like I wanted to ask him something every single day, but it's just like, man, he's so cool. I feel like, how do I even ask this guy something, you know? But no, that was just one of my you know, dreams, was to work with him and actually get into like maybe some sort of storyline or feud with that guy and just pick his brain more. And I feel like you break the ice a little bit more when you finally work with somebody.
Yeah.
It's not just like we're just like coworkers, like walking around backstage, like, hey, how you doing? Once you work with somebody, I feel like that ice is broken, and you can talk more about, like, because he gets a feel for me, I get a feel for him, and he can give me advice on how to improve, you know?
Yeah, of course. Specifically in this business, because it's not just simple you just talk to each other. You guys have to actually work together in the ring to, you know, sell a match. I remember seeing him. He was actually at the House of Hardcore show here a couple weeks ago in Toronto, and, you know, just seeing him in the ring, it was just an amazing match, and he was able to sell the crowd. And you brought up Tommy Dreamer too, because you worked with him and you knew him and talked to him. Would you ever consider going to work for House of Hardcore? Should I ever see you at one of the shows?
Tommy Dreamer, you owe me. Please.
Oh, there you go.
Get me on House of Hardcore, thanks.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I would love to work for House of Hardcore, and You know, timing is everything, and do I see it happening eventually? Sure. I hope it happens, and hopefully I get to wrestle Tommy Dreamer and do something creepy to him, maybe sniff his butt or something, you know.
I'd pay money to see that.
Where would you like? You know, obviously just now you're doing the independents. What's the forward-heading goal? I mean, do you intend to go back doing major promotions, or are you happy working the indies?
I'm never satisfied just like sitting around or just doing some independence. Like, obviously, like, I got into this business to be something special and something, you know, I'm always striving to get to that next level. So it's like, okay, I'm not in TNA anymore, so what's the next step? Or, you know, I have some opportunities coming up. I can't really talk about anything now, but it's like, for now, I just want to kill it on the indies, you know, and just have fun, have good matches, and, you know, get opportunities here and there, and hopefully build up a little more of a name, you know. I feel like some independents are sort of afraid of me, not in the sense that I'm creepy, but I think that they're just like, oh, well, he didn't really wrestle or do too much in TNA. It was more character-based, and a lot of the independents, I feel like, it's not so much character-based anymore. It's a lot more like just the spotty, you know, lots of moves and oohs and ahs, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can do all that stuff, and I'm not burying that because I like that. It's entertaining to me, but I also feel like there's a time and a place for everything, and make it mean something and sell it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to, you know, would you be open to, say, working for promotions overseas, like in Japan or even in Europe or the UK?
No, I'm just kidding. Absolutely. No, I didn't mean to be a smartass, but hell yeah, like, I feel like every time, you know, I did 2 UK tours with TNA, and like, the fans over there, like, just interacting with them after the shows and stuff like that was just the level of respect. It just almost seems like America, like, we're spoiled over here. The fans are spoiled because they go, like, in the UK when they get a big show like TNA at Wembley Arena, it's like everybody comes out and everybody's loud to the very end. You know, it's not just like, oh, we're getting tired and we still have an hour left. Like, they're loud as shit for the whole night. You know what I mean?
Well, it's a lot.
And like I said, just
no.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, because when it comes to the to America, to North America, you know, we have a lot of oversaturation when it comes to wrestling. So I think that's one of the reasons why there's just, you know, you go down one way and you have promotion, and now we have.
No, absolutely. Is it me?
No, it's good.
No, it's Cade.
It's always me.
It was me earlier, by the way.
It's all good. The fans know that we have tech problems regularly. Sad, but hey, we've got them.
Yep.
Does anyone have any other questions left?
I do. I want to ask, this is totally not wrestling related, but I'm going to ask it. If you could have dinner with any one person, living, dead, or fictional, who would it be?
I'm going to have to say Adam West. I think I would just be like, I'd probably bring a notepad and just like study him and take notes like the whole time, like on all the silly things that he did that he didn't think were silly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I just overanalyze everything, so I'd just be like, look at this guy, like, God, look at the way he's like eating his food, or like he's stirring his tea a certain way. You know, I don't know, like
he cuts his green peas.
Yeah. It's like that episode of Seinfeld where like the guys use pork Snickers. Like I would probably like I'd just be overanalyzing him. I'd probably annoy the shit out of him too.
That's a really good answer as well, especially if it helps character.
It is.
It's true.
Obviously, things just now you've said are on the indies and you're working away. If you could work with any unsigned talent, who would be your one pick?
That's funny because like the name that just sort of popped in my head like recently, well, for a long time, but just now, I think like Roderick Strong is somebody that I really want to work with because I feel like he's somebody that's, God, he's a veteran, you know, but he's probably younger than me, I don't know, but he's like so damn good, and just all of his matches look so like just stiff and real, and he has a lot of respect, and that's just somebody like, you know, I'm not like great friends with him, but we're acquaintances, and you know, when I did go to Ring of Honor, like he looked out for me a lot, like, you know, we hung out, and I always talked about how much I want to work with him, and it just hasn't happened yet, but anybody out there who wants to book Roderick Strong and Samuel Shaw, the Creep, let's do it.
We'll get this sorted as well.
Maybe in the UK. Let's do it in the UK. How about that?
Do you know what? Let's get it in the UK. Let's get it to ICW. I mean, we've already spoke to them about doing Bram versus Gunner. Why the hell not?
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. I'll work any of those guys over in the UK, and we'll tear it up.
I'm going to pass that on to Mark Dallas. We'll get that sorted.
Please.
Sam, we have loved having you here. Is there any way that our fans and listeners can get in touch with you?
Yeah, just follow me on Twitter and Instagram, the Samuel Shaw, and you'll find my email address on both those pages and ways to book me. If you hit me up on my email, you can ask me for commission work as far as like drawings and paintings and things like that. I draw a lot of superheroes and wrestlers from the past and things like that, and do a lot of fan artwork. So hit me up, guys.
Awesome. Guys, if you've been listening as well, thank you so much. We appreciate it. If you're wanting to purchase any of our t-shirts or merchandise, please head over to tpublic.com/user/levels of wrestling. And don't forget as well, you can hear the Mind of Carnage, Just Saying, Ringside Ramblers, and the Wrestle Addicts all over on levelsofwrestling.podbean.com. This has been the Levels of Wrestling Lowdown. This has been Sam Shaw with us as well. Thank you guys, and good night.
Thank you.